All right, today we're switching things up a little bit. We are diving into an absolute icon, the 2007 to 2012 Porsche 911 GT3, the 997 generation. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is not going to be your typical buy or buy explainer. Why? Because let's just cut to the chase. The verdict is already in. This is a loud, clear, unambiguous buy. So our job today isn't to figure out if you should get one. It's to break down exactly why this is one of the smartest buys in the entire performance car world and what you really need to know to own a piece of automotive history. So what's the big deal? Why all the hype? Well, this car holds a really special place in Porsche's story. This is it, the last generation of the GT3 that came only with a fantastic 6-speed manual transmission. There was no PDK, no automatic option, nothing. This is the final chapter for the purely analog, 3-pedaled GT car.
So let's roll the clock back. The generation kicked off in 2007. The first cars, the 997.1 GT3 and the RS, had a 3.6-liter engine making 415 horsepower and screaming its head off to an 8,400 RPM redline. Then in 2010, the 997.2 facelift arrived, bringing a bigger 3.8-liter engine with 435 horsepower for the GT3 and 450 for the RS. And it all wrapped up in 2011 with the almost mythical GT3 RS 4.0, a 500 horsepower limited edition masterpiece.
Okay, now let's talk about the soul of this car, the very reason it's so revered, its engine. And listen, we're not talking about some modified street car engine here. Oh no. We are talking about the legendary Mezger Flat 6, a true motorsport engine with a direct bloodline to the Porsche 911 GT1 race car that conquered Le Mans.
And this engine is a world apart from other Porsches of that era. You know, the standard 996 and 997 Carreras were haunted by the infamous IMS bearing, a design flaw that could just grenade the entire engine. And even the later 991 GT3s with direct injection had their own issues with carbon buildup. The Mezger, it has neither of those problems. By its very design, it is bulletproof.
And here's why. It uses a true dry-sump oil system, just like a proper race car, which means it gets perfect lubrication no matter how hard you throw it into a corner. It was hand-built for one reason and one reason only, to take sustained high RPM abuse on a track. And because it uses traditional port injection, you don't have to worry about carbon buildup on the intake valves. It's a masterpiece.
A Le Mans engine in a road car. It sounds incredible, but it also sounds incredibly expensive to maintain, right? Well, let's get into the real-world running costs, because this is where the 997 GT3 story gets even more compelling. So, the most common real issue you're going to hear about is the air oil separator, or the AOS. What happens is the diaphragm inside fails, and it can cause this big, dramatic puff of white smoke when you start the car. It looks alarming, I know, but it's a known, predictable part that wears out.
And to get it fixed at a good specialist will run you about $1,500. It's not an if, it's pretty much a when, but it's a completely manageable and well-understood repair.
Now, because this is a race-derived engine with solid lifters, it does need a manual valve adjustment service. But this isn't a flaw. Think of it as a characteristic of a high-strung mechanical masterpiece. It's just part of the ownership experience of a real motorsport engine.
You'll need this done every 24,000 miles, and it'll cost you around $2,500. Again, it's a predictable, budgetable expense that keeps the heart of this car singing all the way to its red line.
You'll also hear people talk about oil consumption. And yes, it uses oil. But that's by design. Because of its racing tolerances, using about 1 quart every 1,000 miles is considered completely normal. It's not leaking, it's not broken, it's just what a Mezger does. Okay, so beyond the engine's special needs, the other big running cost are the consumables you'd expect to wear out on any serious track-focused car. We're talking brakes, tires, and the clutch.
First off, the clutch. It has a single-mass flywheel, which gives you incredible engine response, but it's a wear item. You should expect to replace it every 30 to 50,000 miles, at a cost of around $3,500 to $5,500. But now for the big one. The cost that gets talked about in hushed tones, the Porsche Carbon Ceramic Brakes, or PCCB. They were a common option, especially on the RS models, and they give you just incredible stopping power. But when they wear out, well...
This is the price of motorsport technology for the road. A full replacement of the carbon ceramic rotors and pads can cost up to $25,000. It's a shocking number, and it's exactly why many owners who track their cars proactively swap to high-performance iron rotors instead.
This chart puts it all into perspective. That huge bar,
That's the carbon ceramics. But look at the alternatives. A full iron brake service is a much more palatable $2,500 to $4,500. And a set of amazing Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires will run you about $2,000. All of a sudden, the running costs look pretty reasonable, don't they?
So you have these predictable, manageable running costs. But here's the pivot. This is the part of the story that turns the GT3 from just a great car into one of the smartest automotive purchases you can possibly make. It is a genuine appreciating asset. Take a look at this, a well-kept 997.2 GT3 that you could have bought for about $100,000 back in 2018 is now trading for between $180,000 and $250,000 today. The market has absolutely recognized how special these cars are, and their values have just soared.
And this isn't just for one model. Look at the whole market. A standard GT3 starts around $140 grand. The RS models start at $180 and go way up from there. And the RS 4.0, that's a $500,000 car, and it's still climbing.
And this brings us to our conclusion. When you factor in the legendary, reliable engine, the manageable running costs, and the incredible appreciation in value, the verdict becomes crystal clear. If you budget between $4,000 and $6,000 a year for routine maintenance, tires, and all the services, you can comfortably own one of the greatest driver's cars ever made, while its value just continues to grow. Of course, always get a pre-purchase inspection from a specialist. That's non-negotiable.
It's a blue-chip collectible that you can actually drive hard. It's reliable, it's engaging, it is the absolute peak of an era. It's a resounding, absolute buy. Which leaves us with just one final question to ponder. With its combination of a manual gearbox, a screaming naturally aspirated motorsport engine, and sublime chassis feedback, is the 997 GT3, quite simply, the greatest analog sports car ever built. We'll let you be the judge of that.